Good morning, Una from Oz here. I've recently been making some collage masterboards, which I've found really exciting as I love to do collage. And I've had a couple of friends ask me what they actually are and what you do with them. So I thought today I would go through what a masterboard is, how we make them, and how we use them. Now, it's a really lovely day here at home and I'm in the studio and got the door open. So if you hear some strange noises, it's because my animals are around and they tend to come and go. But I'm trying to let some light and some warmth in on this beautiful day. So what is a masterboard? It is basically a collage on a large piece of paper. Now, I've done a few, and I've done mine on A4 like cards. So this is about 110 GSM. I thought a light card would be good because rather than paper, because it's a little bit more sturdier. So as you can see with this one, I just collage things together. This was the first one I made. So I used some tea-dye doily, some old music paper, bits of scrap and leftover papers I had. I used some images, I used some tickets. I did keep it in a vintage tone because that is what I'm doing at the moment. I really love vintage. I did a little stamping with some moths and I did some stamping with some words. But as you can see, it is just a sheet of collage. Now, I mainly used a glue stick to stick most of the images down, and I used a little bit of stronger glue to stick down any thicker piece of card. This is just a strong glue mixed with a little water so it comes out of the bottle easy. You can also seal them with, you can use any glue really, as long as it's not too thick, and you can also seal them when you're finished with a coat of glue over the top. So this was the first one I made, and I've just called this one Yellow Robin because of the yellow robin. So I was pretty happy with this, and how you make them and what you do with them is completely up to you because everybody has individual tastes. So the second one I made, I called it Bluebird. And it was, again, vintage, but in tones of blue and quite floral. Again, with some leftover papers, some tickets, some images, a little stamping. And I thought that was really nice, and I was really happy with how it turned out. Then I made one specifically for birds. Again, used vintage style images, a bit of tea-dye doily, a bit of stamping, a few tickets. I quite like using leftover ripped up words. So this comes from a old dictionary, which I'm quite fond of. I'm pretty happy with how these turned out. And the last one I did was an ocean-themed one. And I used a collection of ocean bits and pieces that I have. I have them all in a separate box. Again, a little stamping, a few tickets, scraps of paper, and some home-printed cutouts. Now, what do you do with them, you say? Well, the idea is you can cut these up and use them for tags, for your art journaling. You could use them as embellishments. You could use them as card fronts. You could make them into pockets, bookmarks, make them in whatever you like, and that's the idea of it. Now, when you cut them up, some people like to be very adventurous and just turn them over, mark out where they're going to cut, and cut them without actually looking at what they're doing, and they pretty much get a surprise. Not everybody likes that. Some people like to be more organised. So the idea is you can use your die cuts to cut out shapes. You could just cut them into squares, rectangles, anything that you like. Being done on a card type base, they're actually a little bit more sturdier, and I would recommend on a card type base, or even a 12 by 12 scrapbooking paper base, because if they're just done on paper, they can be a little flimsy. It was also mentioned that you could actually scan them, keep your originals, and scan them and print them and just use your printed images. So this is my original and this is my scanned and printed version. I printed it on the same light card, and I actually thought it was a pretty good rendition. And the nicest thing is once I've got my digital copy, not only have I got them for sale as a cheap digital download in my Made It store, there is a link below, I can also keep my original and print this again and again and again and cut it up and use it as I like. So I thought that was a really clever thing to do. Whereas the originals, you do get a lot more textural feel because there is a lot more layers. This is more of a flatter feel. Now, there is nothing to say that you can't cut up this digital copy printed and then actually add more to it, because that is the whole idea. You can use this as a base or you can use this as a topper. You can fussy cut pieces out, you can do whatever you like with it, but the idea is it's a lot of fun to make and there are a lot of uses to them. So I'm now going to go through the process of making one. So I'll get my supplies ready and I'll show you what I'm going to use, and I'll go ahead and make a masterboard in collage. So let's make a collage masterboard. I'm going to do a bee themed one, and I've chosen a piece of scrapbooking paper because it is about 150 GSM, so it's quite sturdy. And I thought if I'm going to cut this one up, it would be nice to have something patterned on the back. So I'm going to use this bit at the back, so if I do when I do cut it up for tags, I have a surface to write on. It's also got a little honeycomb and a little bee there. I can certainly decorate it more if I like. So on the flip side, which I'm going to cover, it is a pale sort of aquarry with a bit of a grey damask, but I'll probably cover most of that. So what am I going to use? I've got some, so first of all, I'm going to think about the background and then the foreground. So background, I've got some dictionary paper. I actually pulled the ones out that had B written on them, old dictionary paper. I've got a piece of printed a word paper with words on it. I've got some printed music. I've got some old music paper, which I particularly like. Yes, it is only a photocopy, but it looks like it's been around the traps a bit of a while. It's a bit worn out. I've got some brown paper that you get in packaging, and I've stamped it with a honeycomb bee stamp. The stamps that I may use are these two, and they are from the Australian Kazaz range. Or I may just use the back of the paper, which you can see a faint honeycomb on, in brown. This is just packaging paper that you get when you order things in your parcel. I smooth it all out. I've got quite a bit of it, but I find it really, really handy. Another couple of things I've got that I may or may not use is a piece of coffee or tea dyed paper. This one was tea dyed, and then I dropped some coffee granules off on it and hit it with the water spray. I've got a tea dyed bit of doily, and I've got a tea dyed bit of a tag, so I may or may not use. So these is what I will be thinking of as my background. For on top, my foreground, I've got some tissue paper with stamped bees and honeycomb and a few words. This stamp, the bees, also came from the Kazaz range of stamps. I've already ripped it up. I've got some images that I got off the internet of bees and printed them. I probably won't use all of them. I prefer the vintage looking ones. I've just roughly cut them out. I've got a beehive stencil, And I've got some oxides, fossilised amber, mustard seed and vintage photo. I may or may not stamp these around. And I've got these two stamps, as I mentioned. One's got words and one's got bee images, and I may use a little bit of them for stamping around. So I'll stop talking and I will put the music on and we'll get started to make our bee themed masterboard. Use my big cutter to start with and just run a line through the centre. It hasn't cut through the lace. I expected that, so I'll just snip it with my scissors. And now I'm going to change to my guillotine, and I'm going to cut through the pieces. Like I said, I haven't peeked, so I don't know what I'm getting. I don't know if I'm cutting some of my favourite images in half. Oh, there's a piece of lace there. Trim that off. And now I'll do the slightly smaller tags, and then we'll have a reveal at the end. I chose to use the guillotine because it is a nice sharp blade, and I know I've got not only layers of paper but layers of stitching and lace. So there's my cards all cut. So I'll divide them into two piles, and we will look at the bigger pile first. So one by one. So look what we've got here. Very nice, little bits of everything. A nice bumblebee, a little bit of lace. The next one, ooh, honeybee, that worked well. Again, a little bit of lace. I'll probably turn these into journal tags, the word bee and a bee, so I could use these journal tags right on the back, decorate them up a little more. Now we're going to look at the slim ones. So there's half a bee and a nice bit of lace, a little bit of room there for more embellishment. Next one, there's the other half of the bee, a little bit of stitching, a little bit of that pretty little image. I like the way you get little bits of everything spread around. Another one, oh, this one's got a bee in the middle, a little bit of brightness there, a little bit of stitching. I think they're looking really terrific. It is really exciting. That's got a tiny bit of lace there and a little bit of lace there. I think it is quite exciting because you're not really quite sure what you're going to get. And the big reveal, oh, that worked well. I was worried that would get cut in half, but obviously not. There's a little skerrick of lace there. And the last one, which is slightly smaller, worked well. A little bit of lace here and there. I think that looks really good. So now I'm going to endeavour to turn these into tags and these ones into journal tags that can pop into a journal. They have some room on the back to write, and I may even decorate some of these up. So I'll be back soon to show you how I turn these into useful little cards and tags. Back again. So here are the tags I have developed out of the A4 page that we did with the bee theme. So first are the art journal tag type ones. I kept in theme with the stitching and did a simple zigzag around the edge and a little bit of ribbon at the top. I put a little piece of plain ivory card on the back so people can write their sentiment, thoughts or greetings on. If you don't have a sewing machine or you're not into stitching, you can actually just do it by hand, and you can glue the ribbon down on the top. So these three larger ones I did roughly all the same. I also coloured the edges in a vintage brown. I think they look quite nice. They could easily be used as a gift tag or popped in a journal. For the smaller ones, this one I didn't stitch around the edge. I did colour the edge. I put a piece of ribbon on and I put a little chipboard sentiment. You could put that with the gift. This little one I stitched all around the edge and put a ribbon. I also put the little thank you sentiment on, which is a little chipboard. This one I didn't stick a sentiment on because I'd already had the happy. Again, I did a plain stitch around the edge and put on a piece of twine. This one I didn't write a sentiment on, but I did add a piece of twine, some stitching, colour the edge, and I added a little yellow flower for our bee to go to. The final two are just some slimline tags. I put a small sentiment on, there's room to write on the back, and did a plain line of stitching around that one. This one I just put a little sentiment on, no stitching, but I did colour the edge. There is room to write on the back. So, out of the A4 piece of paper, we got, what have we got here? 9 tags. You could make them bigger, you could make them smaller, or you could use the sheet folded in half in a journal page. So there's quite a lot you can do with them. You could easily put this size on the front of a card. So you could put a sentiment on it, fold a piece of A5 in half and glue it on to the front of a card. I think this has been quite successful, lots of fun, and I really hope that you do have a go at it. I will be doing more of these. I'm keen to do a really bright, funky coloured one because I do wax and wane from vintage to funky colours. So hopefully I'll catch you when I do my funky bright one, and it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.